Hello and welcome to the Green Bay Packers edition of The Grueling Truth, brought to you by Gridiron Mode, a new interactive app that lets you call what you think the offense or defense will do in a live NFL game and then see what others around the country pick as well. That's Gridiron Mode. Go to gridironmode.com. I am your host, Evan Witalison, joined by the awesome co-host, Charles Chodovic. We are the two that bring you this Green Bay Packers edition of The Grueling Truth, and we thank you all for giving us a listen. Before we dive into Green Bay Packers stuff, just want to let listeners know, as I've talked to you guys about numerous times, and as I talk to the Red Light Sports Ramble listeners numerous times, I am a fitness coach. I am on a fitness journey, and I'm looking for others that want to join my fitness journey with me. Since 2011, I've lost about 85 pounds, and that was with hard work, eating the right stuff, finding the right workouts that work for me, and discovering this awesome company called Beachbody that has some great products. Shakeology, 21-Day Fix, Size, P90X3, Insanity Max 30. They have a wide range of workouts that can help you range in time frames from just 25 minutes a day to an hour. You can find the time. You should be able to find time in your day to squeeze a workout in. Right now, the 21-Day Fix, starting January 1st, will be the next challenge pack on sale, along with Hammer and Chisel. Hammer and Chisel is a program that centers around weight and cardio, and the 21-Day Fix is a program that focuses on eating and nutrition. Talks about what you should eat, and it takes the guesswork out of healthy eating. You get color-coded containers that you eat out of, and you're definitely going to get plenty of food in your body. And the thing is, you're eating the right food. You're eating the food you should be putting in your body. And like I said, you have the color-coded containers. Greens for vegetables, purples for fruit, reds for protein, and it's broken down like that. And I've had some good results on this program, and I know a lot of people that have as well. If you are interested and you want to learn more and join my fitness journey with a journey of your own, shoot me an email, coachevan66@gmail.com. That's coachevan66@gmail.com. So, now that I got that out of the way, again, just shoot me that email if you're interested in learning more. Charlie, how are you doing today?
Oh, doing good. Doing good. It was another gorgeous day out in Pennsylvania. It certainly was not a cold, chilly winter day, but just another day in the neighborhood. And yes, that's a pun since I live in Latrobe, the home of Mr. Rogers. So it was another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Had some fun, actually. For those that are loyal listeners and fans of the Red Light Sports Network, you noticed that sent out a number of tweets today. I went back this morning and set up some things in Hootsuite and sent out our last 10 interviews that we've done on the show. We haven't had a guest on the show in a while, so I figured I would go back and I would tweet out the links to some of our past interviews. So if you want to go check those out, folks, go to the redlightsportsnetwork.com. We've had some great interviews the past couple months, and I tweeted them out today. We've had authors on. We've had Rob Reichel on. We've had Jake Turner on. We've had a number of people on talking a number of different spectrums of sports. One that comes to mind, Evan, was Mr. Cesar about the marathon. That was a very good interview. I tweeted that link out. So we had a lot of great guests here in the last couple of months, so I decided to tweet those out today. And if you want to go enjoy those, go to either our Twitter account at Red Light Sports or go to the redlightsportsnetwork.com and check it out. But we have a little bit of time, Evan, and it is a big NFL weekend for the Green Bay Packers and Minnesota Vikings. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, well, we're not going to spend too much time talking about this past Sunday. Packers lost 38-8. Probably the worst game I've ever seen the Packers play in quite some time, and that includes the ridiculous Denver Bronco game as well. I haven't seen the Packers play this bad in quite a while. Now they get the Minnesota Vikings Sunday Night Football. The game's been flexed to the Sunday night game, and it's winner take all. The winner takes the division. They get the 3 seed in the NFC playoffs, and the loser gets the 5 seed. So Packers do have a little bit to play for, because if they win, they get a home playoff game. And if they do win, they'll either get the Vikings wild card weekend or get Seattle, depending on what happens in against Seattle in the Arizona Cardinal game. By the time the Packers do play, we should know who their first-round opponent's going to be, regardless of the outcome of the game, because if they lose, they'll play Washington. And if they win, like I said, they play the Vikings or the Seahawks. But very rough game. Rodgers was uncharacteristically off. The offensive line was off, and didn't help that they had a turnstile at left tackle. You know, I like Don Barclay overall. I think he's a stand-up guy. I think he's a solid football player. Not a great, but pretty solid, except when they put him at left tackle. That what I put on the coaches for playing him at left tackle. He doesn't have the feet, doesn't have the hands. He's better at guard and a right tackle in a pinch. But with that said, enough about that game. You know, they lost to probably the best team in the NFL. I've been saying it for several weeks now, that Arizona is the best team in the NFL. And they probably would have been a Super Bowl team last year if it wasn't for Carson Palmer blowing out his knee. So as long as Carson Palmer is healthy, the Arizona Cardinals are the team to beat in the NFL, to be honest. But they played Minnesota. The last time they played Minnesota, they won 30-13. Even though it looked like the offense was back in that game, there was some things that were still a struggle. Minnesota, as we talked about in the last time these two teams played, offensively, North Turner calls the plays. Teddy Bridgewater is still the quarterback. He's still the quarterback that just plays not to screw it up. Adrian Peterson is their leading rusher, 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. The defense is solid. They have had some injuries the past couple of weeks. We'll see if Smith and a couple of their D linemen are able to play. Stephon Diggs is the big play wide receiver. Kyle Rudolph is a really good tight end. And Mike Wallace, he can beat you deep if you're not careful. He's very, he still has a speed to burn, and he's a good deep threat. He doesn't do much other than run deep, but he can still beat you deep. On the Packer side of things, Bulaga and Sam Shields returned to practice today. They have returned to practice, so that's good. Bakhtiari sat out, which isn't good, as did B.J. Raji, who's going through the concussion protocol after he took a shot in the head by his own player, Clinton Dix. Clinton Dix, that's why you got to put your head up when you tackle. You take out your own guys if you don't. But, overall, I don't see much changing for the Packers in regards to their game plan. I think offensively they got to run the ball a lot. I think you got to get Eddie Lacy 20 to 25 carries. And I know he's fumbled in 4 of the last 5 games, but I think you got to give James Starks at least 5 to 10 carries, and maybe even get the young guy, the guy they brought up off the practice squad not too long ago, James Crockett. Maybe get him a few carries as well in the game. But I think they got to be a predominantly power running team. Line up a fullback in the backfield. Line up 2 fullbacks in the backfield. You got Kuhn and Ripkowski. Activate them both. And line them both up in the backfield with Lacy and Starks and Crockett. And you got to run down the Vikings' throats. You couldn't stop Lacy the first go-around. Do it again. And if they start bringing 8 in the box, that's when you got to turn play action. Take the handoff to Lacy, bootleg Aaron to the right, and look for Cobb or Corliss or Rogers or somebody to be open. Because if they're bringing 8 men into the box, somebody should be able to get open. But offensively, I guess as I said, nothing really needs to change. And ultimately, a lot of that's going to go on Aaron Rodgers, because we all know the Packers love to do the run pass option. And that's one of the reasons T.J. Lang got so mad against Arizona. For those that didn't see it, Rodgers threw the ball into the end zone to Devontae Adams. The ball went through Adams' hands. It wasn't caught. And Lang had, turned to Rodgers and said, "Why'd you throw it?" Most people thought he was getting on Rodgers' case for throwing it to Adams. He wasn't. It was one of those run-pass options that Lang wanted to run the ball, and Rodgers decided not to. So ultimately, a lot of it's going to fall on Rodgers on if the Packers are a run-dominant team or a pass-heavy team. And if they're a pass-heavy team, Charles, I'm going to tell you right now, the Packers are not going to win if they throw the ball 45 to 50 times. They're just not going to win. And I've noticed since Aaron Rodgers made a comment after the San Diego game that he wouldn't mind throwing the ball, I think it was 65 times Philip Rivers threw it. They have been kind of pass heavy except for a few games. But offensively for Green Bay, before we jump to the defensive side of the ball, offensively for Green Bay, what do you see the offense having to do? Like what I said, they just got to basically do what they did the last time and be a power-heavy team, a run-heavy team. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've said it for most of the season, Evan, that the running game has to be effective, and they've got to be able to convert on third and short. And if they can establish the power running game, that's how they'll do it. Now, I know the offensive line a little dinged up. It's just going to have to be put the last 15 games behind them. It comes down to one game. I know they're in the playoffs. Both teams are in the playoffs. You look at it, winning the division title, at least you get a game at home. You're playing next week. But a game at home, the routine, the things you go through in preparation, you don't have to travel, make things a little bit easier. But this is a tune-up game. I said last Sunday, it was the barometer game. The Packers don't measure up. They don't measure up. So this is a tune-up. Win or lose, this is what I'm going to say this week, Evan. Up to this point, it was getting in the playoffs. Once you get into the so-called playoffs tournament, whatever you want to call it, anything can happen. So to me, this is a tune-up game. This is the game where they've got to put some things in place. They've got to try to get consistent. They've got to figure out what's going to work and what their identity is going to be going into the playoffs. I said this probably 6 weeks ago. For the Packers to win, not only against the Vikings, but to go deep in the NFC and get to the Super Bowl, they've got to be a power running team. Because offensively, the passing offense is just not there. They've got to use the run to set up the pass. And I don't remember the last time a Packers team had to do that. This Packers team must do that. You had mentioned this, Evan. Starks, a little bit of fumbleitis lately. But you know what? He can make plays. Give him a chance again. 5 to 10 carries, I think, is where he needs to be. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. Ball security has been an issue. Work with him during the week instead of shattering his confidence, because you're going to need James Starks if you want to make a run in the playoffs. So I agree with you. They've got to establish the run. Passing the ball, Evan, if Rodgers throws the ball over 30 times, the Packers lose. That's the way I feel. I think they can run the ball against the Vikings, but they've got to do it in a way where they're being effective with it and not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's right on the tip of my tongue. They can't make it obvious when they're running the ball, when they're passing the ball. They've got to mix it up, and they've got to basically catch them off guard. I've said this a number of times. I'd love to see the Packers, Evan, go into a 2-minute offense in the beginning of the game. Just up-tempo the offense. You can still run the ball. You don't have to pass it every time. But go no huddle, up-tempo, and try to catch the other team off guard. The Packers tend to move the ball a little bit better when they go up-tempo. And so instead of huddling up, instead of taking the play clock down to 3 seconds, get up there. You can go to the line, take the play clock down if you want to. I'd love to see, and I know it's not going to happen, but I'd love to see up-tempo, first quarter, see if they can move the ball, catch the Vikings off guard. What are your thoughts there, Evan, about the Packers and up-tempo offense? I think they do pretty well when they up-tempo the pace of the game.
Well, all you got to do is look at the Cowboy game. The last time the Packers played at home, it was the first game that McCarthy took the play calling back. You just got to look at that game. The tempo was there. They were moving. They weren't having as many checks at the line of scrimmage. Both McCarthy and Rodgers made comments about that. They just got to do the same. And they were even snapping the ball with still 20 seconds left on the play clock. And they got to set the tempo against Minnesota. You're absolutely right. They can't let Minnesota set the tempo. I'm going to be watching how many times the play clock runs below 5 seconds before they snap the ball. I'm going to be watching that very closely because it seems like the offense, when they snap the ball quickly and they don't go through a lot of checks and they don't move a lot of people around. They just line up and play football with very little checks. They seem to be more effective, a la the Dallas game. And, yeah, I know Dallas' defense isn't that great right now, but I'm going to be watching that very closely to see how often the Packers get the ball off with, 5 seconds or less. And the thing is, when you wait till, there's 2 seconds left in the play clock or 1 second left in the play clock to snap the ball, you're basically telling the defense when you're going to snap the ball, because now you got no choice to snap the ball unless you want to delay a game. So they better not be doing that this game. Now, we do got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk Packers defense versus Vikings offense. So stay with us. We'll be back in about 1 minute to talk Packers defense versus the Vikings offense. You're listening to the Green Bay Packers edition of The Grueling Truth.
This is former All-Pro Leon Searcy. I've got a new interactive app called Gridiron Mode, where you get to call the plays, offense or defense, and a live NFL game. You get to interact with other fans, pick the play, pick the call. That's Gridiron Mode.
And welcome back to the Green Bay Packers edition of The Grueling Truth, brought to you by Gridiron Mode, a new interactive app that lets you call what you think the offense or defense will do in a live NFL game, and then see what others around the country pick as well. That's Gridiron Mode. Go to gridironmode.com. Once again, I am Evan Witallison, joined by Charlie Trodovic. We're talking Packers Vikings. Just got done talking Packers offense. Troy and I both agreed the Packers offense needs to up the tempo, and they got to be a power run heavy team. They got to run the ball often. If Rodgers throws the ball 50 or more times, Packers are going to lose. So, with that said, time to jump to Packers on defense. Defensively, the Packers need to kind of do what they did against Bridgewater before. Get after him. Hit him. Get him pressured. I think they had 6 sacks against Bridgewater the last time the two teams played. They got to get after Bridgewater. Make him uncomfortable. He's a young quarterback. How you get young quarterbacks uncomfortable? Get pressure at him and send pressure from different ways. Disguise coverages. Switch coverages. Make him think you're running man but run zone. Make him think you're running zone and run man. You've got to confuse Bridgewater. Young quarterbacks, you can get in their head and mess with them a little bit. And Don Capers' defense, as we've seen, does have a tendency to exploit young quarterbacks. Look at Derek Carr. He didn't have a great game when the Raiders played the Packers, and he's had a great season. Bridgewater, the last time these two teams played, didn't play very well. So they got to disguise coverages and get after Bridgewater. If Bridgewater has all day to throw, he's going to torch the Packers secondary, just like Carson Palmer did last week. Packers, yeah, they got a couple of sacks on Palmer, but they didn't get any pressure on him outside of those sacks. And as I've said numerous times, Troy said numerous times, the sacks as a stat is kind of overrated. Because you get a sack on a guy, let's say you get a sack on second down, then they complete a 40-yard bomb on third down. then what does that sack even mean? Nothing. So if you get pressure on him, then he's going to start rushing his throws, making mistakes, and you're going to get a couple interceptions. And the big thing is, got to stop Adrian Peterson. Got to stop him. If B.J. Raji can't play, it's going to be very tough, but you've got to stop Adrian Peterson. You force the Vikings to be one-dimensional and force Teddy Bridgewater to have to make throws to beat you, you're going to have a very good game. You're going to have a very good chance to win, and that's going to be key. Now, can they consistently stop Peterson? We'll see, because sometimes what Peterson does, you stop him for a 1-yard gain, stop him for a 2-yard, stop him for a 4-yard gain, and boom, he busts off an 80-yard. You've got to stay consistent in stopping him. You've got to do your job as a defender, and you've got to protect your lanes. He loves to cut back. You know, he starts running to the right, sees the hole open up to the left, because somebody over pursued, boom, he finds that hole, and he's gone for 80 yards. The backside guys on these running plays the Vikings do have to stay home. They cannot over pursue. Cannot over pursue until people get a hold of Peterson. Once, a couple guys get a hold of him, get in there and help them get Peterson to the ground. Peterson's tough to tackle one-on-one. You got to game tackle. But if you leave early and you leave a lane open for Peterson, he's going to find it. He's got great feet, got great vision, and he still has a burst of speed when he gets to the open field. But as I said, slow down, stop Peterson, and get Bridgewater uncomfortable. And those are what the defense has to do. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. The main key in this game defensively is to stop Adrian Peterson. If they can limit Adrian Peterson to short gains, they've got to win on first down. And the way they do that is they shut down Adrian Peterson. Pressuring Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, they applied constant pressure to Bridgewater in the first game to the point where they almost knocked him out of the game. And that's what they have to do again. Young quarterback, Dom Capers has to dial up some things maybe that haven't been on film. I know you got a week to prepare, but every coach, and especially Dom Capers, can dial up one or two more unique blitzes that have not been on film and change the formation and change the personnel. That's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to figure out how to get pressure, and they did it last time, and they did it quite well. But I still think, they've got to maybe disguise a few things to make sure they get the pressure, but the key, you mentioned it, stop Adrian Peterson. If Adrian Peterson is rolling, the Vikings are rolling. I know eventually it'll be the other way. When Teddy Bridgewater's rolling, it'll be his team. But right now, you shut down Adrian Peterson, you pretty much can stop the Vikings. And they have to force turnovers. They have to defensively get off the field to keep field position or change field position, whether it be 3-and-outs or turnovers. They've got to do. It'd be great if they could do both. Get 3-and-outs and turnovers. I'll take one or the other. If they can get a number of 3-and-outs, to me that's as good as a turnover. And they still have to punt the ball, but they get the offense back on the field, even though our offense has been putrid at times. But I think if this defense can orchestrate a couple of 3-and-out drives, get the offense back on the field quickly, maybe get some points on the board. This is a team, Evan, we've talked about it, that is a front-running defense, and they can play a little bit more aggressive when they're in front. And it seems to be holding true again this year. So if they can create one or two turnovers, get a number of 3-and-outs, I think they should be fine. But the key is stop Adrian Peterson and pressure Teddy Bridgewater. Like you said, it's not rocket science as to what has to happen. But they have to win on first and second down and put him in third and long situations. Force Teddy Bridgewater to make plays. And I know he can make plays. He has made some in the past. But if they can keep third down, 7 and longer, I think the Packers defense should have a pretty good day.
Yeah, definitely. They should have a pretty good day for sure. And before we do go, and we're going to wrap up in a second, we are going to give our predictions this week, which we didn't give last week. Apologize for those that listened that wanted to hear those. But a lot of discussion on Twitter and on Facebook and on Sports Talk Radio in the Wisconsin area talking about should the Packers rest guys on Sunday. Playoffs are determined already. They're in the playoffs. So should they rest guys on Sunday and kind of tank so they play Minnesota in the Washington in the first round rather than Seattle? I think I share your opinion and your thought on this, Troy, when I say that's crazy talk. That is absolutely crazy talk. As Herm Edwards was quoted as saying, you win to play, you play to win the game. That's why you play. You play to win the game. And if the Packers tank by not playing certain guys and giving them rest, now you're going into the playoffs with two bad performances in a row. And you don't want to do that. You don't want two bad performances in a row going into the playoffs. That's going to kill confidence. You want to make a statement in this game, secure the division, get that first-round playoff home game, secure that, and move forward. And here's the thing about the playoffs. You don't have to be the best team in the NFL in the playoffs to win. You just have to be the best team on that given day. Just got to be the better team on that given day. As I said on Monday when we did the Red Light Sports Ramble recap, and as I said Monday when I got interviewed for a local radio station here, WRJN in town, you just got to be better than the team you're playing that day. If the Packers played Arizona 9 times out of 10 this season, Arizona would win. They just got to win that one time, and they can move forward. And I just use Arizona as an example because that's where the Packers most recently played. With that said, my prediction for the game, I do think the Packers win the division. I think they found a way to win. It's at home, last regular season home game, and I think the Packers beat the Vikings similar to the last time they played. I think it's going to be 28-17, Green Bay. They get to win, and they get the home playoff game. What about you?
Yeah, I've been hoping this offense comes out of their funk. I don't think they do. Not with the offensive line banged up the way it is. I know people are returning to practice, but it's been banged up. I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter, and I really believe it's going to come down to a drive with under 5 minutes to go. I think you're going to see a lower scoring game than we're used to. I think the Packers had just won out, Evan, 21-17. I'm not sure if it'll be a field goal, if they got to score a touchdown late, but I think it's going to be a close game through and through. The Vikings have a lot of motivation. I had mentioned it on the Red Light Sports Ramble last night. The Vikings have not won the division since 2009 when they were led by Brett Favre. There's an article out there. They're sick of the Packers winning the division. They want to put their foot down. Mike Zimmer's done a great job. And I think they want that home field or that first-round home playoff game. And like the article said, they're sick of seeing the Packers win the division. They have their chance. It's right there in front of them. I hope the Packers are not complacent. I hope they don't go in with that overconfident attitude that, hey, we've won the division 4 years in a row. We beat you before. We're just going to win this game. It's going to be a tough one. They've got to go out and play. I want to comment on what you said about resting players. Like you said, you read my mind. That's crazy talk. I had just mentioned before, it may only be one game. It may only be the first round of the playoffs. But when you're an athlete, and we've talked about this on the show a number of times, Evan, as former athletes, you get into a routine in between games. The training regimen, how you eat, sleep, drink, how you travel, everything that you do is a routine. And when it's a home game, the routine is a lot more I'm having a hard time with words tonight. The ritual just is there, and it is something you do over and over And so it makes your life a bit easier. Now, I know there's a travel routine also. However, when you're playing at home for the playoffs, you want as little distraction as possible. And having that home playoff game gives the Packers the least amount of distraction. They don't need travel plans. They don't need to go to a hotel. They don't need to practice at a different facility. Things are similar, and things are in place. I think you go out. I had mentioned it before. It's a tune-up game. They have to get things right. If they would rest players, Evan, they will not, and we talked about this, there's not one thing you fix on this team. There's many things. But you cannot even try to correct some of the problems if you rest guys. You need to play the starters. You need to go. You need to win the game. You need to have a home playoff game. And then, like you said, once you're in the playoffs, one game at a time, 60 minutes, that's all you have to be better than the other team for is 60 minutes. And not even necessarily 60 minutes. You just got to be better than when the final gun sounds. But at the end of the day, that is crazy talk to rest players and kind of tank the game to play Washington. I think that's ridiculous. So that's all I have, buddy.
Yeah, with that said, we do got to wrap the show up. Have another show to do in a little bit. So with that said, thank you for giving us a listen. Appreciate you spending some time with Troy and I on the Green Bay Packers edition of The Grueling Truth. I hope everyone listening had a great Christmas, and I hope you all have had, depending on when you're listening to this, a happy new year, and I hope 2016 brings you, happiness and joy. With that said, Troy and I will get back at you next week previewing the Packers playoff game. So you've been listening to the Green Bay Packers edition of The Grueling Truth.